Right. G'day people. So what this is again in my series of defending Australia with what we got right now. Okay. So I know it's going to be out of screen, but you know, our main adversary is, you know, around 4,500 k's that way, north. Now, if you look at the current missiles and weapon systems that the Australian Defence Force has, they got nothing, right? Absolutely, and I'm not joking, we have nothing, okay? So we have submarines that I'm pretty sure the submarines can launch Harpoon missiles, you know, and we might have Harpoon Block 2 slammers or something like that. But if you look at their range, they're not even you know, the standard Harpoon, which I know we definitely have, it's got a range of, surely this has got to be Block 2. It's claiming here a range of 93 to 315 k's. Yeah, that's not too bad. And the Slammer, I'm not sure if we have these, but this has got a range of 240 k's. So the main issue with these is, though, we have to get them somehow all the way up there, and what, we've got some Super Hornets. Joint Strike Fighter certainly can't go that far. So we've got some Super Hornets, and to be honest, I don't think that they could even make it there, even with refueling and that. You know, it'd be such a long trip out of our comfort zone into the enemy's territory, and we're going to have to fly above, you know, Indonesian airspace and other Malaysia, etc., etc. You know, and if we were to try and fly around international airspaces where we can go, it's no go. It just won't happen. Right. So the only option is then submarines. And how serviceable are our Collins class at the moment? Don't know. How many of them at any one stage do we have? And then we're gonna risk them by going all the way up there, so they can get within a maximum range of 221 kilometers to launch one of these, where they've got heaps more assets up there. It's not going to happen. So thank you very much for the politicians and the heads of defence and our strategic planners for the last 30 odd years or longer, who have absolutely just ran our military into the ground, destroyed our capability. We've got absolutely nothing. Okay, you got rid of F-111s that had the best chance of anything, and you replaced it with inferior stuff. Okay, us having a moat, us having our own continent down here with a small population, a small budget, and a moat with air to sea gap. Okay, we should be pioneers in ballistic missiles, okay? But instead, China's become a pioneer in ballistic missile systems. Okay, so what are we expected to have our pilots put them into harm's way to try and get within that sort of range of S-400 and the latest, you know, all of China's missile systems and radars and all that sort of stuff, and anti-air, anti-missile technology, it's all brand new. Ours is, I don't even know how old these missiles are. They were first introduced in 1977, okay? So we do have a couple of, what are they, the JSAMs, you know, they got a range of, you know, somewhere near approaching 900-ish kilometres, I believe. But we still need to get our planes like way over past Indonesia. We need to get these up into like Malaysian airspaces, and this is just to hit the lower Spratlys, and this is just to hit the maybe surface fleet, surface vessels. So like, we're absolutely incapable of doing anything. And like, people tell me that, you know, they question my ideas. My idea forever. I can't understand why we don't have ballistic missiles. We have the Woomera missile range down here in South Australia, in the middle of bloody nowhere. They've been testing missiles, nuclear weapons, etc., since the 1950s. Yet we don't have any. Like, what the hell is going on? Our army doesn't have rocket artillery, so we can't do big salvos. You know, like, and people are still going to vote these clowns in. Like, when are people? For 20 years, I've never voted. For over 20 years, I've never voted Liberal and Labor. You know, like, and I've been screaming at the top of my lungs to everybody that I know, and they just look at me like I'm a fucking retard. Like, and we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars on shit that's no good. Like, okay, so what can we do with what we got? Again, I see the best case scenario is if we basically retire from frontline service most of our Harpoons and things like that. We need ballistic missiles. As far as I'm concerned, we have to have ballistic missiles. We've got such a huge air-to-sea gap that we need ballistic missiles to get a small to half-decent payload a long way away, you know? And then it doesn't require airports and all of the stuff that I've talked about in my other videos. We don't need, like, runways and all of that sort of stuff. They can be mobile. They could be on ships. They could be on submarines. We could have missile boats, which are underwater missile boats. They're not full-on submarines that are meant to go down deep. They just stay underwater a little bit. They just need to float up here. They could be dropped by Hercules aircraft or whatever, parachuted into the water on crates. Get them as close as we can, maybe on, you know, somewhere around this archipelago. We go underneath the water, through all the, if they're nice and small, just big enough to have, you know, a cruise missile or a Harpoon or something like that on there. Or, you know, I still think the cheapest option is a cruise missile or a ballistic missile, a pulse jet. You know, we don't need a massive warhead on there, just a warhead big enough to cripple a ship, not blow it out of the water, even if it's just critically damaged, taken out of the fight, you know. So it's really a depressing situation, that knowing that our government intends on being involved in these wars, and they're going to send our sailors and our airmen and our army into the lion's den, you know. They're basically unarmed. They've really got no potential to do anything, considering China's like a porcupine of missiles, okay? There's no people on board those missiles, so we can shoot them down and we're not affecting their population at all, you know? They just got lots and lots of cheap, mass-produced missiles that they can just fire and just keep mass-producing them, and at the moment we got nothing. They've already got it. Their production facilities are already established, ready to go, and we have nothing. And this is why when people question me when I say that we have to change this government, we have to sack the government, I'm not talking Liberal or Labor. I'm talking the whole, every last one of them. Every last one of them. Labor, Liberal, the whole lot. Federal, state, local council, totally destroyed us. He's absolutely have destroyed this nation. We have to, only the people can do anything about it. We have to change the government, and we have to start from scratch. And we have to start from scratch with the foundation building blocks, thinking strategically from the ground up. From the very first brick that's laid, it's defense. And we take into account, we use our natural, what nature's provided us. We've got a moat. We've got hot, dry desert inland, and we have tropical north. So we know, a solid 5 months of the year, 4.5 months of the year, you can't land up here because it's just a big boggy, swampy, muddy bog hole. So heavy vehicles aren't going to get through up there. Tanks, armored 4-wheel drive, 8-wheel drive vehicles, they're pretty much no good up there in the monsoonal seasons. So we've got that to work with. So that can bring our defences back here. And we control water. So that makes hot and very little water in this section here. That's another defensive line. So we've already got 3 rings of defensive capabilities just from nature. We should be on top of this. Okay? So with what we got, midget submarines, draw them down here, provoke the bear, give them a couple of little midget subs that we can keep the harpoon missiles external, or another cheap missile that we can have in between, not expensive ones, just cheap ones that we can fire. We can anger the beast and try and get him to come down this way, because we can't go over there. One of the reasons why we won the Battle of the Kokoda Track, say the mountain range was coming straight down the guts here. Say this is the Owen Stanley Ranges in Papua New Guinea during World War II. Okay. This is the north coast, this is the south coast. Port Moresby's here. The Japs had to get a lot of their equipment from a long way away that were constantly under threat from American air forces, submarine fleets, and battle fleets. Okay, surface fleets. Australia had nothing. So we had American support and Australian support bringing logistics to Port Moresby. So we only had to get our supplies to here. Okay, the Japanese, under stress, had to get all their supplies to come from up there, or Rabaul, which would have been roughly here. That was their sort of staging area. They had to get it from there, cross more water, which there's US submarines and planes constantly harassing them. Then they had to meet us halfway. We fought a fighting withdrawal, which meant we would withdraw back this way slowly, and we'd stop, create defensive lines, fight, and we'd come back further this way, make another defensive line, fight, and we just kept doing that until we were basically right at Port Moresby. The Owen Stanleys and the jungles in New Guinea are extremely harsh terrain. It was the terrain that beat both sides, okay? And by the time the Japs got us back down to here, pushed us all the way almost to Port Moresby, their supplies, their reinforcements were slowed down because of the mountainous terrain and because of the jungles and the constant rain and malaria and sickness and no food and supplies. So as they started to get to here, they started to run out of their supplies. But our supply line got closer. The closer we got to Port Moresby, the more reinforcements and the more supplies that we had. So of a battle of attrition, once the Japanese were weakened and malnutritioned, then they had to start going backwards to meet up with their supplies, as ours were just getting stronger and stronger. And eventually our main professional forces came back from the Middle East, learnt, fighting the Germans and Italians, and they came back successful. They were ready to go, and they're going to smash these Japs that are now threatening our home soil. They were keen as. So then all of a sudden we get hit with fresh supplies and troops that are ready to go. They're keen to get amongst it. And now the Japanese are weakened, and then they had to retreat. And they did what we did. They fought a fighting withdrawal. But in the meantime, the Japs had lost other battles at Buna and Gona and Leh and Milne Bay. So, and they were getting smashed in Guadalcanal, and the Americans and they lost the Coral Sea, and they got smashed up in the Bismarck Sea. So, you know, it was all against them. So we need to do something similar to that. Okay, if we've got any chance of smashing China, we've got to draw them down so they come down from the south, bring them out of their safety zone. We've got to bring them down here, and that stretches their supply lines. We've got everything we need here, and if it's all mobilized, all of our supplies are coming from a very close, you know, they're right on our doorstep. So we've got endless supplies where they have to bring their supplies down with them. That's when America and Britain and things like that, they can hit the flanks, and we just have to hold them back so their supply lines keep getting pounded. That's how we can fight them. Okay? Saying that, they can smash us by intercontinental ballistic missiles. Okay? So their intercontinental ballistic missiles, they can fire from mainland China and hit all of our capital cities in Australia. And whose fault's that? All these assholes in Canberra. So they should be tried for treason for not doing their job. Because if I didn't do my job properly, I would be sacked. And so would all of yous. So these assholes in Canberra, all of them need to go. And we need somebody in there who's potentially going to fix this. At the moment, all I can see, and the closest thing that we've had to a leader of any sorts, someone who's putting their hat into the ring and willing to give it a go and has experience in this field, is Ricardo Bosey. That's the only solution I see. You know, I've personally asked him a question at one of his Q&A days down the Gold Coast about a militia, about a volunteer service, and he gave an awesome, it's on the internet somewhere, it's on YouTube, he gave an awesome reply, went for about at least 5 to 7 minutes, how he wants to strategically build our Defence Force again and have the Defence Force so good that people want to join it. Okay, so I think that he would be all for all of this sort of stuff. Okay, and he'd actually even have better plans. And the best thing to do is, so he knows weaponry, he knows tactics, he knows strategic and tactical weapons. He knows bullshit. He knows all about the corruption and the industrial military complexes. So he knows what this country needs. He could be a shill. I don't know. I don't think he is. At the moment, he's the closest thing and the only thing that we've got that could potentially save us. So that's how I see it.